In higher ed, we're all looking for big wins, but reducing a 75% application abandonment rate and achieving a 90% conversion rate, that's next level transformation. Michael Bettersworth, CMO at Texas State Technical College, shares how they achieved this by streamlining the application process with Element 451.
Our Element journey began out of a necessity. We were switching to a new SIS, and the application process was going to pose some real usability issues for us. We felt that application was going to hamper our enrollment. So we began quickly to evaluate different CRMs, different applications. So for context on that, our conversion rate with the prior application had about 75% abandonment of people clicking apply to submit. And the first weeks after going live with Element, we saw an 80% conversion, and that's now up to 90. So improving the usability of that application on the front end process has had a significant advance in our intake.
When technology works for students, it works for you. Visit element451.com to see how simplifying the application process with artificial intelligence will lead to significant results for your institution.
When I really took a step back and was like kind of going through that reflection, and it's like, what have I done this year? And I wasn't too proud of what I found at the end of that, because it's like, my goodness, I have been busy, busy, busy. Every day I have a to-do list a mile long. I am busy. But when it was like at the end of the year, what have I actually done? If I'm looking at like the big goals, things that actually move the needle forward, I didn't really like what that list looked like, because it's like, man, I've done a lot of little busy things, but maybe I haven't spent as much time on some of the bigger initiatives, the things that you should be doing that moves you forward, things that actually propel you and put movement and get you closer to those goals.
Welcome to Mission of Missions. I'm your host, Jeremy Tiers. This is the show designed to help you grow, both professionally and personally, in the fast-paced world of higher education. Every other Tuesday, I sit down with senior leaders, new professionals, and difference makers from across higher ed and beyond, where we'll share tips and strategies related to challenging topics like student recruitment, leadership, customer service, enrollment marketing, and time management. So if you're looking for practical advice and conversations that actually move the needle, this show's for you. Grab your notepad or fire up your notes app, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Jeremy Tiers, and this is episode 70 of the Mission Admissions podcast. When's the last time you said no to something and felt good about it? Knowing when and how to say no at work especially, right, is a common challenge that many of us face. And so here to help me kick off season 5 of the pod with all kinds of helpful insights to share on saying no and setting boundaries is Kate Speer, who is a self-proclaimed recovering people pleaser. Gee, that sounds familiar. Thanks for joining me on the show, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're definitely not the only people pleaser out there, not even close, right? And so even if someone isn't a people pleaser, Kate, obviously the desire to just, keep a positive reputation with colleagues or your boss, it can make it hard for any of us, right, to say no or to turn down others when they come and they ask, for help or give us a request. Why do you think so many people struggle to just say no? Like, give me some thoughts as to like the biggest reasons.
Yeah, well, I think that comes back to just in some cases how we were raised and brought up. I mean, think of like you're a kid going through school all those years. You can't really tell your teacher no if they ask you to do a paper or do an assignment. So it's like we were conditioned all growing up that it's just like, this is what you do. And then I think that takes it into the job force with you when you finish school and are out working professionally, that it's like, can we say no? I feel like a lot of people have never even really given themselves permission to go there. And I think, we're taught to be positive and get along with others. And like, yes, that's true. I feel like I love that for myself even. I always try to be positive and to be able to get along with other people and to not cause waves. But I think some of the side effect of that is that none of us have ever even stopped to think that maybe sometimes we can and possibly should be saying no to things.
Well, and how much, because here's where my brain immediately goes, right? We hear a lot about work-life balance, work-life integration. You call it whatever you want, right? There's all kinds of terms for it. How much do you think people struggling with trying to balance everything is because they struggle to say no and they have way too much on their plate, which to your point, we're one human. There's only so many hours in the day for all of us. And I would argue some of us are just being realistic with the time that we actually have and what we can get done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of us, I would be one, I would consider myself kind of like a go getter and I like to be an overachiever. And what comes with that sometimes is one, people recognize that you're good at things. So you tend to get asked to do even more probably than your fair share. And then I feel like innately, I want to say yes. Like there's a part of me that sees the good in any opportunity. And it's like, yeah, I can do that. I'd like to be a part of that. I see what you're saying. Just it can get you trapped sometimes. I feel like for myself. So I am a full-time marketer. I have a career that's in executive leadership. So normally more than 40 hours a week I'm working. I have 4 children. So I'm busy, 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 busy. And what comes with that, I'm always going to kind of tie it back to this example because it's always what sticks out in my head. I ended up being on the board for my elementary school PTA for probably about 10 years. Why? I don't even really know why. Because it's like you should be involved in the school, you should volunteer, get connected into your community. It's great. I said yes to a lot of the volunteer opportunities that came my way with that. I did meet a lot of great people. But about a year ago, I stepped back from that opportunity just because it was like, is this even aligned? Like, does this match my goals? Does it match where I want to go? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And does this help me get closer to that or take me further away? So I think it's just kind of that trap that you get asked to do more, you want to say yes, and it's just a cycle that unless you're conscious and aware to even like stop it or slow down, it just goes and goes and goes.
If you're comfortable sharing, Kate, what was the tipping point for you where you were just like, yeah, no, like this has to change because like you said, it's either not aligning with my goals, not aligning with my vision, and or I'm just so mentally and physically exhausted. Like clearly I got to figure out how to do things differently. So what was that tipping point? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I actually kind of do. And I was putting together kind of an end of the year like check-in for my boss. And I wanted to, oh, here it goes back to the overachiever thing. It's like, I'm going to put in here all the great things that I've done this year. And when I really took a step back and was like kind of going through that reflection, and it's like, what have I done this year? And I wasn't too proud of what I found at the end of that because it's like, my goodness, I have been busy, busy, busy. Every day I have a to-do list a mile long. I am busy. But when it was like at the end of the year, what have I actually done? If I'm looking at like the big goals, things that actually move the needle forward, I didn't really like what that list looked like because it's like, man, I've done a lot of little busy things, but maybe I haven't spent as much time on some of the bigger initiatives, the things that you should be doing that moves you forward, things that actually propel you and put movement and get you closer to those goals. So I feel like I was doing that presentation and it was like very eye-opening because it was just like, I didn't like what I saw. I didn't really like my results. And I felt like the effort that I had been putting in this whole past year really didn't match the results. And I think that was because it was kind of the wrong effort. It was all this busy work, saying yes to things that I shouldn't, getting caught in this trap of, sure, I can help with that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can lead fundraising for the PTA. But it's like, what is that doing when you take a step back, pause for a minute and like reflect on it? And that for me was when it was like, all right, maybe I need to kind of realign my time, reevaluate what I'm saying yes to. And that's hard too, because I think it goes back to like, we all want to be wanted and seen. So I think there's a little like confidence booster too when you get asked to do these things. Like, sure, you picked me. I'd love to go and do it. But I don't know. For me, that was really the tipping point because I didn't like kind of my own end of the year reflection. But yet at the same time, I had been so busy. So busy. And it's like, we only have a limited amount of time. What are we saying yes to? And in turn, is it the right yes?
I love that you mentioned, hey, like, was I actually doing things that were moving me forward in my personal or professional career? And I'll be honest, I would love to hear from you on this, Kate, because here's what I see when I'm out talking with young, and by young, I mean 20 something ish professionals, right? On different college campuses or in the lanes that I work in. a lot of them don't do self-reflection. Like I literally just had, one of my good friends, Connor Ellingheisen, on a couple episodes ago, and we talked about the importance of self-reflection, especially if you're in a leadership position. And so I just wondered, do you see that too with a lot of people? It could be younger, but even older too. Like I don't see a lot of people doing self-reflection. And so I wonder, if you're not doing self-reflection, then what are the other warning signs that can help you realize, okay, I think I need to like hit a pause button here and figure out how to start to say no?
Yeah, I do think a lot of people don't do reflection. And I would even say myself that I feel like I do a lot of work on myself and I am always trying to learn and grow. It's not something that naturally pops up. And I think because there's nobody making you do it, there's no deadline, there's no, I mean, other than maybe like your formal annual review at work, nobody's actually making you do that. But I feel like when you do it on a personal level, you're looking at your whole life. Like, are things in line? Am I spending time focused on the right things that I should be focused on? I just think you really need to kind of take that pause because nobody's going to do it for you or make you do it. So I think it's very easy to get in the trap of not doing it. But if you aren't doing it, it's almost like that roadmap. Like, where are you driving to if you don't exactly know? And I think if you don't know where you're going, it makes it harder to figure out what's a good yes and what's a good no.
So besides doing some self-reflection, what do you think are other, I'll call them warning signs then, Kate, that like people listening should pay attention to that, hey, like if this sounds like you might need to, like we just talked about, hit that pause button and start to figure out, do I need to make some changes?
Yeah, so I can tell you just in my own story, it's just when you start feeling super overwhelmed, and I feel like I can take on a lot. Like mom of four, career, I'm pretty good at taking on a lot of responsibility and multitasking. I got to a point, and it was kind of at the end of last year that I was just feeling like super overwhelmed by just all the things. And again, for me to get to that point, it takes a lot. But again, you wouldn't know that if you weren't checking in. And then I had this crazy to-do list at work because I'm pretty organized. So people will come to me with things, and I always try to put that on a list, keep it organized, keep it prioritized. It helps keep things sane in my head. And I went into work the one day, and it was a day where it was just like all these things were coming at me. And my list was super long, and it was, what exactly am I doing? The big things that move the needle forward, because I'm stuck kind of in this whirlwind where it's all these little things that keep coming up. And I went into work one day, and one of our regional managers came up to me and asked a very innocent question. It was about just like labels on our soda bottle and where are we at with like the revision on this. And he is a terrific, sweet man. But I feel like that one conversation and that one question, I was just like, you are going to push me over the edge. Like, it is coming. It's on my list. I felt myself almost getting like short and frustrated with him asking a very valid question that is something that I needed to do. It was on my work to-do list. But that moment too, it's like I'm almost near tears because this man asked me about the label, and it was just because I have too much. I have too much on my plate. I've said yes to too much. I've bit off more than I can chew. And I feel like having a little bit of that reflection before you get to that point is also good, because then you need to figure out how to backpedal and course correct. But that for me, that one moment where it was just like the littlest thing is going to push me over the edge was my warning sign.
So recognizing it, and I would argue, and I love that you use this word permission early in our conversation, because I, want to give people, and I'm sure Kate will gladly do it too, permission to be able to like do these things we're going to talk about here. What strategies and tips then, once you recognize that, Kate, have really helped you set those boundaries that have been helpful for you?
And I would say it kind of ties in with the reflection piece. Just taking a moment to pause before you say yes or no to things and just kind of check in. One, knowing your goals, taking a minute at the beginning of the year, however often you want to do it. And it's like, what do I want this year? What do I want this year? Where do I see myself in 5 and 10 years? And it's okay to not really know that entire answer or have it fleshed out, but at least have kind of an idea, because then you're walking in the right direction. So start with that. But then when something comes up, it's like, should I say yes or no to this? Me with the PTA. Do you want to run this fundraiser? There's a part of me, old me, that would have said, sure, I'd love to, because I could run it great. And I like you and I like my kids' school, obviously. So yes, let's help. But if you take that pause and it's like, Okay, those things that I said to myself, my 1, 5, 10-year goals, is me running this fundraiser for the PTA getting me closer to that goal or further away? Because I almost feel like there's not really a middle ground. It's either closer to or further away. And really looking at it from that lens. So it's like it makes it really easy for me to say, I so appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I have too much going on right now and kind of big plans for myself in the next few years. And I just don't think that this really aligns with my own personal priorities and what I'm able to commit to right now.
And you kind of hit on where I was thinking we'd go next, which is okay. Is there language specifically that you've found? Hey, this seems to like resonate, or I'll say soften the blow with a colleague, a boss, a friend, whoever it is. And I think being grateful and to your point, saying, hey, really, thanks for thinking of me. Like, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. Before you get into just saying no, basically, what other language, if anything, Kate, have you found seems to basically, I'll say, like I said, soften the blow, so to speak, and make it to at least be what is a conversation that somebody hopefully doesn't immediately walk away and go, yep, Kate sucks.
Right. And I think that's so important. I feel like just being a marketer and coming from the comms world, and I have a little bit of a psychology background too. So it's always like the words that we use and how we communicate something can really break or make an entire message. And even if you didn't intend for it to come across that way, you don't want people to be like, oh, that Kate, she's a jerk. Who does she think she is? Or she thinks she's too good for this. There's a lot of ways it could go if you're not handling it right. So I think one, gratitude, you know, you had mentioned that as well. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I really do appreciate that. I think that helps too. And I just think puts you in a good headspace too, to be grateful for the things that are coming your way. But you don't ever want the person to feel rejected or like what they were asking was silly or not a good ask. Cause it's just like, I want them to think of me again. I mean, maybe not for the PTA opportunity, but I'm looking like big picture, maybe 10 or 20 years, there's something that comes up with this person where we could collaborate or work together, or I could help them. So it's like, you never want to burn that bridge. So I always am grateful. Thank you so much for thinking of me. And communication, I think, is important too, and explaining why. It's not just, I don't have time for this or it's not important to me. You never want to come across like that. It's just, I have a lot on my plate right now. So I really need to be aligned with my priorities and goals. And I also usually like to throw in there, I don't have the proper time to commit to what you need. Like, you need somebody that is going to be able to give this their all. That's what you guys deserve as an organization. And me right now, as much as I'd love to do it, really can't deliver an A plus result just because I don't have the bandwidth and capacity to give you the time that this deserves and needs. So it's like that validates them. It validates the ask. And then also when I can, if it makes sense, I also like to recommend somebody. Hey, maybe I can't do it, but my neighbor that just moved in and is maybe looking to meet some people and get connected with the community might be a really good fit for this. Can I make that introduction for you? So I think that's kind of my strategies for saying no in a way that's still kind, respectful, grateful for the opportunity, and keeps everybody happy and things moving forward in a way that serves everybody best, honestly. Because the other thing, if I had said yes to that and ended up doing a bad job and not being able to commit, there's some fallout down the road with that too. I think it's better to just be honest from the get-go and say no when you need to.
I love those tips and strategies, especially, the idea of recommending somebody else, because how awesome is that person going to feel then if, for example, the person who came to you with the original request comes to them and says, hey, like, was talking with Jeremy about this, and he actually thought that you would be a great person to come and like partner with or whatever it is. And now that person all of a sudden is like, well, that was so nice of Kate or whoever it is in that situation. I would love to pick your brain on this. How would you tell somebody internally to process, Kate? Let's just say worst case scenario happens. So person asks you to do something, you say it just like you said it, and they walk away, and now they're like annoyed, frustrated, mad at you in that situation. How do you tell the person who said no, like, don't feel bad because that person now is annoyed, frustrated, whatever they are? just because you didn't say yes. Thoughts on that?
That's a hard thing and it happens. But I feel like at the end of the day, if I know I did the best that I could with that and tried to avoid that and lead with gratefulness and positivity and all of that, there's only so much I can do. And if that person chooses to not receive it like that, I almost need to let it go. And there's two things with that. One, it's maybe a wink that like that wouldn't have been a good fit anyway. Like perhaps if they did not take that way, we wouldn't have worked well together in the long run anyway. So there's that part of it. It's like maybe that was a blessing in disguise. And then two, just going back to my communication experience. So I worked in the trucking world for a while, and we would always push out internal communication to our truck drivers. And as you can imagine, I feel like truck drivers, some of them were interested. It was like a bell curve. 20% like really read everything and were engaged and liked what you had to say. 50% of them like sometimes here and there. There were 30% really that probably never opened a messaged email, did not care, wanted me to go away. It's fine. I feel like how I would always take that is like, I did my part. You can never come back and say that we didn't tell you or didn't try to tell you. It's like, if you didn't choose to receive the message, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I did what I could.
Anything else to add that if, let's say it's your direct supervisor or a person in a senior leadership position and you're having the exact same conversation, is there anything you would say that you would do differently, Kate, for example, in that scenario? Or do you feel like, nope, it's a lot of the same things that we just talked about, Jeremy?
So I do think it's a little bit different in a boss work scenario than if it's just like my PTA volunteer experience. And I think you have to do it a little differently, and it's all kind of in your approach and the strategy that goes into it. And the story I mentioned earlier about the man that came in at the end of last year and was like, where are we at with this label design? And it almost broke me. What I ended up doing with that is that I did schedule time with our CEO, because it was like, something needs to give here, because this isn't working and it's not helping the company if I'm just doing all this busy work and not actually moving the needle anywhere. So a few things with that, though. I feel like no boss, because I have people that report to me too, likes a complainer. So you don't want to come and just say, I'm so busy and I'm overwhelmed, and nobody wants to hear that, especially in a professional situation. Save that conversation for your friends or your spouse or whoever you talk to on the side. In a work relationship and setting, I feel like you want to come at it from a strategy perspective. When I had that meeting with my CEO, I kind of came with like, here's my to-do list. Like, here's everything that's being asked of me this week. So it wasn't just me being overwhelmed or at the break. It came with like, here's the examples. Like, let's actually look at this together. So you're approaching it from a real strategy perspective and not just Kate's overwhelmed and needs a minute here. So I showed him everything that was on my plate and a few things with this. It was like, one, come with solutions. So it wasn't just looking at him like, I have all this stuff. What do you want me to do? It was like, okay, here's what we can do here. We can either reevaluate this list. What is most important to you? Is there some things on here that can maybe wait? It could be like a next year thing. Or like, just so when I'm working and doing all these things, I'm saying yes to the right things. So not just for me, but it's aligned with our CEO. It's aligned with the company goals. So coming at it from a strategy lens, providing some solutions. So it was either like, we either need to reprioritize some of this, make some of this maybe a next year thing and not a right now thing, or I need help. Like, we need to hire somebody else on my team that can kind of take some of this off of my plate. And if I hire this person, here's what I'd have them do. Like, I came very prepared to that meeting. It wasn't just me complaining or venting. It was just kind of, here's the problem in a very strategic way with examples and things that went beyond just how I was feeling. And then here are some suggested solutions on what we can do to move past this. And I did end up hiring somebody. So like, I have a marketing coordinator that works in-house with me every day to kind of tackle some of this list. But I feel like I wouldn't have gotten that yes, you can hire a teammate so easily if I had just walked in there saying, I need help and I'm overwhelmed. So I think how you approach it in a workplace scenario is very, very important.
And I appreciate you hitting on the nuances there of having the conversation with leadership versus, like you said, oh, it's a PTO conversation or something that, again, isn't necessarily, I'll say, a work-related thing or with somebody in a senior leadership position. And so many good just tips and strategies that I think are going to be helpful for our listeners. And, really it starts, as Kate said earlier, with giving yourself permission. The last thing I do on every episode, Kate, is something I call fun rapid fire. So I'm going to give you a handful of things and I just want to get some quick answers from you on each, okay?
Love it.
All right. So you work for a candy company as a senior leader. So of course I have to ask, your favorite candy is?
Peach rings.
Peach rings. I do actually like those. Those are nice. Those are nice. Most underrated city you've ever been to? Like you just were like, wow, this is like way better than I expected it to be, or like pleasantly surprised.
So I've been to all 48 states. I'm an avid traveler. I'm going to say Bangor, Maine, actually.
Okay. Well, I have been to Portland. I've not been to Bangor, but I've been to Portland and some of the suburbs there. And the funnest workshop I ever did in my professional career was out on one of those islands off of Portland that you can take a ferry ride out to. The school had a staff member who owned, I think it was a faculty member, a house out there. And so maybe 7-8 years ago, they were like, hey, Jeremy, we're going to do the training if you're cool with it. I like this house on the island out there and you can ride the ferry out in the morning. So Maine, very underrated area without question. So I'll ask, because you and I were talking about this, ironically, we've both been to every state but two. And so Hawaii, we both have in common. The other place you haven't been is where?
Alaska.
Okay.
And that goes back to just having 4 kids. I feel like I travel a lot, but it's in short bursts. Like I'm the queen of a long weekend adventure. And I need a little bit more time for both Alaska and Hawaii.
So I have been to Alaska. For me, believe it or not, the other one is Rhode Island of all places. Never been to Rhode Island for work, for pleasure, for nothing. So small state. I'm sure I will get there at some point. Rumor has it, like me, you enjoy a good glass of wine. So what's your favorite type of wine?
Pinot Grigio.
Okay.
White.
All right. I am very much a red person. Not that I discriminate, right? And I like my whites and rosés as well, but I'm very much a cab or a red blend person.
And I love those too. Same thing. Don't really discriminate. I haven't found a wine yet that I actually don't like. But if I had to pick one, it's the Pinot Grigio.
Last one. Person that, again, you may have been asked this before, but person you'd love to have dinner with this week if you could. They can be dead or alive. Who would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one because I think there's a lot of people. I feel like the first person that popped into my mind from Shark Tank is actually Barbara Corcoran. I feel like I love her business advice, business savvy, just woman in business that has done things and crushed it. I think I would have dinner with her.
Yeah, very, very talented person. Well, I really appreciate you being on, Kate, today. I think this is going to help a ton of people because, as I said, when we jumped on, so many people struggle with this idea of like, I know I need to say no, or I'm feeling like I probably do. But again, I want to be that people pleaser we've talked about. And so I just keep trying to do that. And it comes to a head, right, for all of us at some point. And so I really encourage those of you listening again today who feel overwhelmed, like Kate said, or just those other warning signs where it doesn't align with things that, again, are important to you or kind of on your radar in terms of where you want to be in your life. Really sit down and evaluate as you're having conversations with people when you're being asked to do things and be comfortable to say no more. Thanks for listening to Mission Admissions. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify network, home to Higher Ed's the largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.